What Trump did at Davos this week was a bombshell of epic proportions. The reverberations are still echoing around the world. And I don't care if you voted for Trump, you protested Trump, you never want to hear his name again. It really doesn't matter, because what he did was confirmation of what I've been saying for the last year. The so-called rules-based Bretton Woods era order is finished. It's done. The unipolar order is over. And the globalists are furious about it. They're scratching back, trying to cling to it. Howard Lutnick nailed it.
We are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America.
Lutnick is right. People are missing the bigger story here. They're obsessing over Greenland, which is a huge part of the story. But Davos was the signal flare, the reshuffle of the story. Trump walked into the World Economic Forum, the globalist living room, the former home of Klaus Schwab, and he framed it as talking to friends and maybe a few enemies in the room. And then he didn't go after Putin or China. He went after the people sitting right in front of him, the European elites. He basically said, I don't trust you anymore, and I don't trust you to do anything to help or protect America. Like, if we had to invoke Article 5 in NATO, would they come to help us? Of course not. And he told them their energy policies are totally suicidal.
In fact, their electricity prices have soared 139%. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers.
He's like, you're putting wind turbines up while you're sitting on the North Sea loaded with oil and you refuse to drill?
The United Kingdom produces just 1/3 of the total energy from all sources that it did in 1999. Think of that, 1/3. And they're sitting on top of the North Sea, one of the greatest reserves anywhere in the world, but they don't use it.
And then he tells them the other forbidden truth: Europe's cities are becoming unrecognizable because of mass illegal immigration.
Trump can do much better by following what we're doing, because certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable.
Now, right before Trump spoke, Canada's Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney gave his Davos speech, and you could not script a better contrast to Trump. Carney came out with this polite globalist sermon, basically. Rupture. In the rules-based order, he said it's a rupture. Tariffs as weapons. Middle powers need to band together. Not the superpowers, like the little guys. The middle powers need to come together. Watch.
Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
So the translation here is, please everybody stop the superpowers from acting like superpowers. Okay. And the hypocrisy is wild because he's being hammered back at home over Canada cozying up with China. So it's, wait a minute, we're going to stand up to the superpowers while also doing deals with Beijing? So rules for you, deals for Beijing for me. Okay. Then Trump gets up and punches inward. The Europeans, the NATO class, the people who've been lecturing America while cashing our checks, and then he turns to Carney. Reports say Trump actually told him face-to-face that Canada should be grateful, that Canada lives because of the United States. Then he said that publicly.
Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
When Carney tries to posture like, oh, we declined Trump's board of peace, Trump basically laughs and then moves on. Withdraws the invitation. We don't want you on our board of peace anyway. And you can call it whatever you want. Yeah, Netanyahu is on there. Come on. That's like putting Thanos on your board of peace, right? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, it's a power move. Trump is building structures outside the usual UN NATO machinery. And he's basically saying, hey, we're done with the United Nations. We're really done with NATO. And I'm going to decide who's in and who's out. Are you with us or are you against us? That's it. He just drew a line in the sand. Meanwhile, Carney's answer is peak panic. He wants a coalition of middle powers to stand up to superpowers. That's like getting a group of bench warmers together to form a committee to hold the starters accountable. It's like a group of Karen Hall monitors telling others what to do. Okay, great. Now here's the point that everyone's missing. This isn't just about Greenland. Greenland is the exclamation point here. This is the bigger story, though, is that Trump is recentering U.S. strategy around the Western Hemisphere. Again, love it or hate it, it doesn't matter, but this is what is happening. It's not a conspiracy. He actually wrote it down. It's in his national security strategy paper that was published before Christmas. The Western Hemisphere was the entire point. I think people just maybe didn't take him at his word. The whole point is to stabilize the hemisphere, deter mass migration flows, stop them from pouring into the United States, crush all of these drug cartels and these transnational criminal networks that are trafficking children and bringing all sorts of drugs into the United States, and block hostile foreign powers from owning key assets in our backyard. Like, regardless of how you feel about China, why does China own so much land near our military bases? Anyway, you can call it a modern-day Monroe Doctrine energy, the Don Road Doctrine as people are calling it, whatever. I know it's hokey, who cares? Only one hegemony in the Western Hemisphere, and it's not Brussels, it's in Washington, D.C. Again, it really doesn't matter how you feel about it. This is what's happening. It's not just words. Now look at the pattern here of what Trump's doing. Argentina, open support for Milei's government there. Washington picking a side and saying this matters in Argentina. Mexico, cartels now being designated as terrorist organizations thanks to the bullying from the Trump administration. That changes the framework. This stops it just being a crime, and now it becomes a national security issue, and it expands to what the U.S. is willing to do. I don't know, bomb, by the way. And by the way, the most immediate threat to Americans isn't sitting in Tehran. It's actually sitting in cartel territory across the border. As Colonel Douglas McGregor has repeatedly said on our show, the biggest threat to the United States of America comes from Mexico.
And they're damn well interested in what's happening in Mexico, because they know that that is a cesspool of barbarism, savagery, criminality. And that's our existential threat.
Yesterday, we learned that General Kane ordered the largest ever meeting of Western Hemisphere militaries to come together for a meeting. The point of this meeting is to crush cartels, terrorists, transnational criminal networks. This is huge. 34 countries meeting militarily to discuss what they're going to do in the Western Hemisphere. And then there's Alberta, Canada. And this is the part that's insane. This week, Treasury Secretary Scott Benson on camera talking about Alberta like it's a free agent, praising Albertans as fiercely independent, talking about how fed up they are, basically saying an independent Alberta would be a natural partner for the United States. I mean, let that sink in. The U.S. Treasury Secretary, not some random internet account, openly wading into Canadian international politics during Davos, while Carney is literally in the building. That's the contrast in one sentence. Carney is begging for a rules-based order, while Trump's team is saying, cool speech. Also, your richest province might break up with you and maybe want to join the United States. And that's why the globalists are furious here, because the old model was, hey, America's going to pay for everything. America's going to protect you. America follows the rules, while Europe moralizes and cashes in. So that's why you're seeing the freakouts right now. They're not mad because Trump is out of control. That's how they label him. He's out of control. Maybe. Really? Is he? They're mad because he's actually in control, and the control is shifting back towards a national interest in the United States, border security, hemispheric power. And Greenland is the ultimate piece of that puzzle, not leasing, not sharing, total control there. Arctic access, minerals, basing, the northern approach. That's why NATO and Europe are panicking. It signals the United States is willing to redraw priorities. And Europe is not at the top anymore. Sorry. So yes, laugh at Davos, but don't miss what's happening underneath. The post-World War II globalist consensus is being replaced with something harder and more transactional, and the center of gravity is shifting back to the Western Hemisphere. Friend of the show, Anthony Pompliano, just said it best last night. He said, look, you've got this whole change that's happening, geopolitics and money, and you better keep your head on a swivel right now if you want to survive what's about to happen. So that's the news update part of today's video. Now brings me to the money portion that I want to talk about and the sponsor for today's video, because when the world order shifts, money moves fast. So you need to pay attention to the money piece of this, and it is moving big time right now. So in the past 2 months, my life has completely changed because of the surge in both the gold and silver markets right now. I've said it many times in the past few years. I'm bullish on precious metals, and I own physical as well as a nice portfolio of mining stocks. I've been telling you this for years. So the dramatic sell-off in the US dollar and the export controls on silver from China are not new to me or to you, because on my channel I've been discussing the end of globalization now for the past 18 months at least. Everything is tied to the big picture that I keep covering and assessing for you, bringing independent research, world-recognized experts to your attention. This week I had Peter Schiff, economist Peter Schiff, on the show. He said money is going to start moving into mining stocks because of what Trump is doing to bring this infrastructure back home.
I think the real opportunity for people who, have a little bit more of a risk-taking mentality. I look at gold and silver as conservative stores of value, but gold mining stocks and silver mining stocks, yeah, they've tripled this year, but given how much gold and silver have gone up, these stocks are actually cheaper now than before they tripled. The thing is, Wall Street hasn't woken up to that yet. So I think there's still an incredible opportunity for people to buy these mining companies that are literally, gold mines. They are now making a fortune mining gold and silver because their costs are about the same, if not a little lower than they were a year ago.
By the way, that was earlier in the week. And then by the end of the week, suddenly big money started moving into a lot of junior mining stocks. Now look at the previous sponsors of my channel. Now you can see for yourself the companies that I'm bringing to your attention. Now I told you about this company, then it went up 600% in the last year after I told you about it. Here's another one I told you about that went up 420% in the past year, trading at all-time highs right now. Another 128% in the past 1 year and near its all-time high. Then I told you about this one, went up over 1,000% in the past years, crushing markets, trading at another all-time high. These are just a few of the mining companies that I've been researching and bringing on as sponsors of our channel that I featured to you. Here's another one, up 297% this past year. Here's another one. There's more, 492% in the past year, 415% in the past 5 years, and 241% in the past year. So these are junior mining companies and senior mining companies in the natural resources sector: gold, silver, copper, uranium, lithium, and others. So today I'm going to feature a company that is considered a junior explorer. It has exposure to 5 metals simultaneously, including gold and copper, both trading at all-time highs, uranium, which is trading at multi-year highs, and lithium that has nearly tripled in the past 6 months, as well as a critical metal that the Chinese are already restricting exports on. I'll tell you more about that in a second. So after what we all saw in the past few months with Putin, Trump, Xi Jinping, and a trade war on key components for the new supply chains that are forming right now, I'm going to drop some bombshells on you in the next few minutes, and you're going to be amazed at how much work there's still ahead of us to actually bring security and minerals to the industrialized world and inside of America. So we know that Trump enacted 50% tariffs related to copper. The Chinese Communist Party restricted exports on rare earth metals in October. And then just recently, they announced restrictions on silver. Russia has seen Trump's administration taking over Venezuela's oil industry. And I want to show you that on the lithium, uranium side, and in a strategic and rarely talked about mineral that I'm featuring for the first time in this channel's history, China commands major leverage over the West: copper, gold, lithium, uranium, and for the first time ever, molybdenum. They are 5 key minerals that our today's sponsor, Vanguard Mining, has direct exposure to in its diversified portfolio. So I'm going to put their ticker symbol up here on your screen. It's UUUFF on the United States exchanges. Now, they span a number of safe and U.S.-friendly jurisdictions, does Vanguard Mining. So Vanguard Mining is the first sponsor I've ever featured that is so wisely diversified in multiple regions and numerous metals. So they are available at Interactive Brokers, Schwab, all of the big ones, E-Trade, Fidelity, if you want to look more closely at them. Now, you have to see what I saw when it comes to Chinese dominance over these. Okay, lithium. Lithium's price nosedived by 90%. It bottomed in June of 2025, and it's already doubled since then. So that lithium winter is officially over. China's stranglehold on lithium is most evident in refining and processing, where it controls a commanding share of global capacity. Get this, China processes 60 to 70% of the world's lithium chemicals, including lithium carbonate, hydroxide, and then taken together, China's lithium stranglehold is a 3-layer system. It's kind of crazy. They have processing dominance, then they have battery supply chain scale, and then they have the ability to tighten the screws via export restrictions, which is what they did. Copper. China imports about 60% of global copper ore and unrefined copper, and then it produces more than 45% of the world's refined copper. But then on the consumption side, China consumes about 58% of the world's refined copper. So much of it stays there. China's copper stranglehold via refining monopoly, ore imports, massive consumption, and then procurement leverage positions it as a huge gatekeeper for global electrification right now. And you know the demand for electrification across the world and in the United States. Now, molybdenum. China holds a profound stranglehold on molybdenum. Shorthand is called moly. It's easier to say than molybdenum. Anyway, they're dominating the primary production and the leveraging export restrictions to control global availability of this mineral, while they're also consuming a large share domestically for its steel industry. China accounts for about 42 to 45% of global moly output. Now, the most alarming development in China's recent export crackdown in 2025, Chinese authorities introduced strict export controls on moly powders and related alloys that were being exported to the West. But that has now collapsed by over 95% in a single year. It's crazy. So these are the main reasons why Vanguard Mining is huge on my list. These projects are gold in Brussels Creek project in British Columbia, gold, copper, palladium exploration project in the Kamloops mining district. Gold just hit $5,000 an ounce. There's never been a better time, in my opinion. Then on the uranium side, as the U.S. looks to decouple from foreign supply chain vulnerabilities, the mandate is clear. Secure domestic and friendly jurisdiction uranium at any cost. We need it. The real X factor isn't just policy, it's big tech right now. Companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft are now bypassing traditional utilities to secure long-term power directly from their own nuclear reactors. You ever think like Amazon be building its own nuclear reactors? They are. This is why we've identified Vanguard Mining, because they control 90,000 hectares in Paraguay's Paraná Basin, strategically located right next door to a world-class UT project. Lithium. Argentine projects are key Western-friendly alternatives to dominant suppliers. So Vanguard Mining, which has brilliantly reclaimed 100% interest in the Poquitos 1 lithium stellar project in Argentina, they have high potential brine asset, enhances Vanguard Mining's corporate portfolio. So the Poquitos 1 project offers direct exposure to Argentina's world-class salars. Lithium has nearly tripled since June 2025. There's never been a better time, I believe. Copper, moly, indispensable. So it strengthens steel. It's critical for pipelines, defense systems, aerospace, energy infrastructure. So Vanguard Mining's inclusion of molybdenum alongside gold, uranium, lithium, and copper makes it uniquely positioned right now. So guys, do your own research on this multiple minerals company. I'll have links in the description below so you can dive more deeply, and we'll see you next time.